Alright, so the most controversial thing in the Game of Thrones, the Song of Ice and Fire community, besides the Game of Thrones ending, or like the last 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, it is the Azor Ahai, the prince that was promised, prophecy. Half of the fan base thinks it's Jon Snow, the other half thinks it's Daenerys, but the real ones knows it's Stannis Baratheon. And no matter which social media you go to, especially TikTok, people are just fighting over who is the prince that was promised. And I made my videos on this. I think it's far more nuanced than a lot of people think it is. And today we're going to talk about that. So I just finished watching Dune, or like watching videos on Dune. And I wanted to explore the possibility of the prince that was promised and Jon Snow, Daenerys, Stannis, and this entire religious arc that is going to be in the next few books of A Song of Ice and Fire having a false messiah plot twist. Now, I do think overall it is completely inevitable that there is going to be some sort of false messiah storyline narrative in this. It's too good of a story not to do. I think George R. R. Martin has been itching to do this whole false messiah religious holy war in A Song of Ice and Fire, but to a much lesser degree than the Dune books and the Dune movies. And even if he doesn't completely go into it, because obviously we only have like 2 books left, there will still be many elements that the Song of Ice and Fire, Prince that was promised, Azor Ahai, is supposed to teach. And George R. R. Martin giving his opinion on, religion and false messiahs or real messiahs. And this does work with who George R. R. Martin is. George R. R. Martin does put his own personal opinion on things and runs with it. So like George R. R. Martin is, obviously anti-war. He's obviously, anti-shaming of, women in the industry, the adult industry. And you can see that through his books. But he's also a pretty big atheist, if you didn't know. He talks about it in a few interviews.
I was raised, born and born in Jersey. I was raised Catholic, but I was never really a true believer, and
Me neither.
I stopped going to church when I was in college. We have to adopt these laws because an invisible guy who lives in the sky said so. I don't I don't get it.
Me neither.
It just seems to me, how can any intelligent person believe that stuff?
So yeah, it really wouldn't make that much sense for George R. R. Martin to go all in with this whole Azor Ahai, the chosen one prophecy, and completely just run with it. Like even George R. R. Martin, who has said he is very anti-war, he has said that, there are some wars you just have to fight, like, the Nazi war, he did say that. So I can see him doing a little bit of magic stuff, but I do think there's gonna be lessons in this Azor Ahai prophecy that he wants us to learn. And I do think overall that this prophecy has more to do with, the idea of a messiah rather than the actual messiah. The idea of this chosen one like figure, the Azor Ahai, prince that was promised, than them actually being Azor Ahai or the prince that was promised. So let's just look through the evidence in the book. Aegon, he believed that he was fulfilling a prophecy to unite Westeros against the Long Night, and his conquest killed millions of people and has put this, system in of the Targaryens and this patriarchal society, and the Targaryens need to be in power, and no one other than them really lives a very, very fantastic life, all because of the prophecy. There's also Rhaegar Targaryen. Rhaegar's obsession with the prophecy destroyed a 300-year dynasty. His actions literally started, Robert's Rebellion. If he did for some reason think, Lyanna needed to be in this prophecy because she is a Stark, and he's like, oh, the Starks might be related to the White Walkers. He's like, oh, this might be, a magical baby type of thing. Rhaegar's whole obsession with his prophecy led to his family being killed, starting many wars, just for the chance that to get this messiah-like figure. And again, we still don't even know if Jon Snow is the prince that was promised, so he could have completely failed on that one. And there's also Stannis. Stannis is like the most in-your-face type of criticism that George R. R. Martin has for these types of messiahs. Stannis wasn't a savior, and he was completely, manipulated by the faith or Melisandre's gods, and his this journey to be this prophesied prince is going to be his downfall and his own demise, and it could honestly be the extinction of his entire house. And Stannis does have this confirmation bias that sometimes Melisandre is right and some stuff just has to happen by R'hllor, and it's basically a distraction for Stannis could just go to King's Landing again and just fight. And he still is doing that. He still is in the whole political game, and he is still a smart, war strategic. But he would have probably gone a lot faster if it wasn't for the, R'hllor prince that was promised prophecy. Melisandre's belief in Stannis also led to the atrocities of, burning innocent people. In the show, Shireen gets burned. And we do know George R. R. Martin has confirmed through like a book that like, you know, the what's the book called? Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon. He will say Stannis will decide to burn Shireen in the next book, and that decision is most likely influenced by Melisandre. So like in a weird way, the prince that was promised is already doing damage. It is already killing people, and the prophecy hasn't even been like fulfilled yet, or at least if it has been fulfilled by, you know, Daenerys or Jon Snow, it's not public enough to the point where these actions and deaths are justified. Like there's a pretty good chance that when the books are done, we're gonna look back and reread the entire thing, and it's just gonna be like, oh, so the prince that was promised has been basically killing people through its influence, literally at the, you know, book 1. And it's pretty ironic because, you know, this whole thing that like George R. R. Martin is trying to teach us, that like, you know, false messiahs and just blindly following false messiahs, even if you don't believe that, like, even if you do think there's a prince that was promised, you still have to agree that right now, people in the fan base are blindly following, like, you know, the Daenerys side or the Jon Snow side, and they're like, they have to be real. People in the fan base are like, I am only following Daenerys as the Azor Ahai, and some people are like, I'm only following Jon Snow, and he has to be Azor Ahai. But in reality, they don't understand the criticism that George R. R. Martin is saying to the prince that was promised. He's saying with it, that blindly following someone to be this messiah-like figure is only going to create conflict, and prince that was promised Azor Ahai is the most controversial thing in the fandom. Go look up anything else. Go look up Lannister versus Stark, and you'll see more like peaceful arguments on those Reddits or forums or whatever than the Azor Ahai prince that was promised stuff. Like if you go on TikTok and search of the prince that was promised, the entire comment section, there's people blindly following who they want to follow, like Daenerys or Jon, and just fighting over it. And you know for a fact, if George R. R. Martin has TikTok, which, I mean, he might have TikTok, because he is actually pretty active on social media, he's looking at that and be like, yo, you guys are literally not understanding that I'm trying to show you guys that you guys are the victims of false and blindly believing in something, and you guys are doing the thing that I'm trying to make you guys not do. It is insane. But yeah, now I want to talk about how this actually affects the canon, because that's like outside the canon, but I want to talk about how this can affect inside the canon, and how believing false messiahs can actually, you know, screw up all of Westeros, really. So let's use someone like Tyrion, for example. You know, Tyrion is probably going to be on Daenerys' side, and he is probably going to lead to her downfall. Daenerys in the last chapter was already having her downfall. She is, you know, embracing her Targaryen side, like George R. R. Martin has said in interviews that she will embrace her Targaryen side in the next book. And Tyrion, he can use this whole Azor Ahai prince that was promised, hey, it has to be Daenerys, it has to be Daenerys, and he can use that to manipulate others to get in a position to kill Jaime or Cersei. Or the Night's Watch can just say, hey, Jon Snow got resurrected. He is literally Jesus. He is the prince that was promised. And not to mention, he was literally born from a promise, you know, like promise me Ned. And he might even show that he is the son of Rhaegar and he has Rhaegar's harp. And the Night's Watch might be blindly loyal to Jon, and they might ruin their own vows. Their vows are to, you know, protect the realm. But in reality, Daenerys is the only one that can protect the realm. But because they're blind faith, they're only gonna back Jon Snow. And therefore, the realm is gonna fall, the wall is gonna fall. They're gonna let the White Walkers in because they decide to follow Jon Snow and not Daenerys, who is the real prince that was promised. Again, like assuming she might be the real prince that was promised. And by the end of the book, what's most likely gonna happen, even if there is a prince that was promised, is that the prince that was promised is not gonna be this, you know, unanimously agreed upon thing inside the canon. Not just outside the canon, but inside the canon with all these people inside the universe. When the books end, there will be many people who say Daenerys is the prince that was promised, and there's gonna be many common people that say no, Daenerys is not the prince that was promised, it was Jon Snow. Some might say it's Bran. Some might say the prince that was promised was supposed to just only bring back dragons, and some might say no, the prince that was promised is the one that kills the dragons. Some might say the prince that was promised is the one who sits on the Iron Throne, because whoever sat on the Iron Throne is the one who united the realm and let people, you know, fight. Bran might be the one sitting on the throne, or young Griff. So like no matter what, there's gonna be many people by the end of the book who don't really believe that there is one prince that was promised. And this might be a critique on real life religion, that, you know, most people don't agree on one religion. The biggest religion only has like 2 billion followers of it, 6 billion don't follow it. And there's gonna be groups of people who think one person's a messiah. There's probably gonna be more people who think that the Messiah hasn't come yet. There might be people at the end of the book who still don't think the prince that was promised has been revealed. They might think the prince that was promised is gonna come in 3,000 years from now. And I would bet a lot of money that does happen. But yeah, anyways, that's it for today's video. Just wanted to make this entire video, kind of get this off my chest. Because I saw a TikTok of this and I thought it was actually fantastic. I saw a TikTok from an account called Moon Maids on TikTok. And yeah, that's it for today's video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and yeah, peace out.